Okay, welcome everyone. It's 7 p.m, so I'm going to make a start. I'm Dr. Suzy Green. I'm pleased to meet you all. I firstly wanted to apologise for the postponement over previous weeks of the webinar. I did have a couple of events that occurred that I really didn't have much control over, and I guess I had to use all my skills to be psychologically flexible to address those challenges, and hence the apologies for postponing the webinar. But thank you to those that are joining us tonight. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the program, basic introduction to start with, and then talking about why I created the program, what it is. I'm going to go through the 6M model that we'll be exploring in a much deeper aspect, if you like, over the next 8 weeks. And then we're going to be looking a little bit more at some of the detail of how the program works. I do have a couple of giveaways tonight, and for those on the webinar, no, not really. I've got Claudia with me tonight. This is Claudia. Hi. And Claudia will be joining us each week in Live in the Lab and assisting myself and you with any resources that you might need or any questions that you have as well. But we are giving couple of character strengths cards away tonight. These are really popular. We've had them for a few years now. We give a percentage of proceeds to the VIA Institute, who we have partnered with. And we also had another very special offer to those that have joined the webinar, or for those that are listening to the recording post the live webinar. Okay, so I'm going to make a start. Okay, so why did I create the program? It really started because my early career as a psychologist was working in a psychiatric clinic as a clinical psychologist. So I didn't realise at the time, but I was thrown in at the deep end, particularly as an intern psychologist, working with people that were very psychiatrically unwell. I started off by teaching the skills of anxiety management, cognitive behavioural techniques, but I discovered fairly quickly that I personally didn't think I could do that sort of work every day. I admire those that can, but I also realised that our role as clinical psychologists and psychologists generally is not just one of treatment, but one of providing the skills for prevention and promotion of mental health and well-being. And so I've become really passionate about that. They do say that the universe conspires to support you when you are in alignment with what is of value to you, and when you feel like you are living a life on purpose. And I guess I can attest to that over the last 20 years, where I've been really fortunate in many ways to be in the right place at the right time. And I had an opportunity to teach positive psychology at the University of Sydney for 10 years to postgraduate students. And in teaching the course, the field of positive psychology was still emerging. And I guess, again, in teaching the course, I really, in many ways, was quite hard on myself to be able to be across the research, to be able to support the students as best as I could. Since finishing up teaching, I still maintain academic connections. I have an honorary position at the Positive Psychology Centre at the University of Melbourne, and I do some guest lecturing there. And I'm still madly passionate about the science of positive psychology and also the science of coaching psychology, which is a complementary science that launched at the University of Sydney in the year 2000. And most of my presentations and publications over the past 20 years have been on the integration of positive psychology, being the science of well-being, psychological well-being if you like, and coaching psychology, which is the application of behavioural science for the enhancement of performance, well-being and resilience. So they really are best friends, and we'll have an opportunity in the course to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But as I said, I've become really passionate about mental health and well-being promotion for a number of reasons. Firstly, because we all know the significant and increasing rates of mental illness in our communities. That's also very relevant in the education sector, where we spend a lot of our time, myself and our associates, and in the workplace sector as well, where In fact, we often have people or staff, if you like, that are very highly engaged, find their work very, very purposeful, but it's often to the detriment of their own well-being. And I'm aware that we may have some students joining us this year that are actually in many ways joining the program as a gift to themselves in terms of focusing on their own self-care because they've spent so long focusing on others, which is a beautiful thing to do. But we see, you know, in many cases, people that are very focused on helping others, kindness as their top character strength, but again, to the detriment of their well-being. So the positivity prescription is a fantastic opportunity to fill yourself up based on what the science currently tells us can help us increase our levels of well-being, decrease our levels of mental illness and mental ill health, but also increase our levels of capability or functioning as a human being. So for me, the course is very much about being your best self. Some of you may be familiar with Abraham Maslow, who was a famous humanistic psychologist in the 50s and 60s that introduced the concept of self-actualization. So really, it's about our personal growth and development as human beings. So that's the primary reasons why I created the program. Another reason that I like to share with you is that I spent many, many years working one-on-one individually with clients, whether as a clinical psychologist, a coaching psychologist, doing executive coaching, personal coaching, and I'm not actually doing any one-on-one work at the moment. So for me, this is a really special way to connect with a smallish group of people to be able to give some individual attention and to hear about your stories and dreams and desires and to support you as best as I can in that way too. So what is the positivity prescription? Well, I created it as an online program. So we recorded the videos. This is our third year. This is the class of 2020. We had two very successful classes of 2018 and 2019. It's been growing in popularity, which is fabulous. I've also just recently, and it's about to be launched, published the book of the same name, The Positivity Prescription. This has been 2 years in the making. So something I'm very proud of. And the course is actually, or the book is actually based on the course. They go hand in hand, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that tonight as we progress. But it's an 8-week online program. It's quite self-paced in terms of watching the video modules, but we do have what we call a live in the lab call every week where I'll join you personally. And for me, I think this is where I believe I can add real value because it is quite, I guess, intimate and obviously up to you as the students or participants to share as much as you'd like to. But I really do have an opportunity to connect with you quite personally, particularly while the program is still at a small stage, small group level, if you like. So we've got 6 core modules and I'm going to go through those 6 M's tonight. And as I said, it's based on the science of positive psychology. So got a couple of giveaways tonight. We are going to give away 2 packs of character strengths cards. And the first pack I'm going to give to the first person, hopefully someone will be quick, to post an answer to the question in the chat box. So you should be able to find chat on the Zoom menu bar. And if you can respond with what does positivity mean to you? I guess we all have our own ideas and conceptualizations of what positivity means. Oh, fantastic. People are pretty quick. So I'm assuming there's a few people on the call that have zest, energy and vitality as their top strength, which is actually one of my top strengths. So Laura, you were the first one. So Claudia will be contacting you tomorrow to give you the details. And for those that missed out, there's one more chance tonight. So stay with me. I'm hoping to not keep you too long on the call tonight because I know it's a bit of the witching hour for those with kids. So I'll keep going. I guess, what does positivity mean to me? Positivity means to me, I guess, obviously a focus on experiencing positive emotions. And interestingly, we'll talk about this in a moment, as a clinical psychologist in my training, I never once had a lecture on love or joy or kindness, gratitude. And it's really only been in the last 20 years through the science of positive psychology that we now know that there are 10 different positive emotions. And we know that positive emotions don't just help us feel good, but they affect how we function. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. But it's more than just experiencing positive emotions. It's engaging in, and I wouldn't say positive thinking, because I don't want you to think that it's just about thinking positively. Our brain does like some evidence to support its, I guess, thoughts, if you like. But I would suggest it's more about thinking more hopefully or more optimistically. And we'll be talking more about that in the week on mindset. And it's also about engaging in positive behaviours. So behaviours that are, I guess, supportive of ourselves, but also supportive of others. So, for example, particularly when we utilise our character strengths of kindness and compassion towards others, and perhaps forgiveness is another one I would suggest is a really important behaviour, if you like, that can have very positive impacts on both ourselves and those around us. Okay, so who's the program designed for? Firstly, I want to say you don't have to have a background in positive psychology, in science. You don't have to have completed an undergraduate degree, even a diploma. I did create it for everyday people that want to learn more about positive psychology and well-being, I guess, proactive psychological well-being and mental health. In saying that, I'm not going to apologise, I guess, for the science that sits behind it. And we'll do our best to provide scientific papers for those that love them, but we also provide videos that explain some of the concepts in a much user-friendly way. And each week we'll also provide some summaries of how I read the scientific papers, if you like. But rest assured, everything that I do present has a scientific base and evidence base to it. They're not just great ideas that are sitting in self-help books and the self-help shelf. They really have been tried and tested scientifically. And as I said before, I've used them with clients over the years. And I think even more importantly, I've used them on myself. But in saying that, not all activities and techniques work for everybody. And we'll talk a bit about the concept of the person activity fit, which means some activities that work for me may not work for you, and some activities that work for you may not work for me. So, but there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk about that. So when I created the program, I was thinking this could be really relevant potentially for people that may have suffered depression in the past, have a family history of it, are concerned that perhaps their mood is starting to drop and want to be proactive, but also those that really are into all of the books and the self-help section of good bookstores, and, you know, follow inspirational and motivational people on Insta, which there are plenty of them. I might say not all scientifically backed, but definitely this is for people who want to perform at their best and be their best selves. It's also a fantastic introduction if you're a leader and you want to take this out to your team, although we'll spend some time talking about the importance of learning it and living it first. And this is really important if you're an educator, and we've had lots of teachers and educators on the program the last 2 years. It's really, really important that you apply it to yourself, particularly if you're going to be teaching this to students. And same with leaders. If you're a leader, it's really important that you've had a chance to make sense of it for yourself before you take it out to your team or your organisation. It's also, I believe, a great intro if you are a psychologist or a mental health professional, because, as I said, it's a great intro to the field of positive psych. It does draw on broader psychological principles, given psychology has been my life for the last 20 or so years. And it's a fantastic introduction to positive psychology and well-being for anyone that's in the coaching industry. That could be sports coaching, it could be life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, and also for anyone in the health industry. Again, I see lots of personal trainers, you know, anyone in that health industry becoming more and more aware, particularly of the power of mindset and concepts like mindfulness. So this is a great introduction if you're if you want to put your big toe in the water. So we're not doing a master's. You can actually do a 2-year master's in positive psychology, but I think I've put together a really great program for those that want to put their big toe in the water and are really just curious at this point in time. So what's involved? Well, as I mentioned, there are 6 core modules based on my 6M model, which I'm going to go through really briefly in a moment. The videos are 6 to 10 minutes, not a lot of time. So and I guess I would encourage you, even if you haven't done any pre-reading or other videos, so each week we'll have read, watch and do. So we'll have some recommended readings, some recommended videos or TED Talks to watch, and we'll have some recommended actions for you to take. Please don't think you can't come on the Live in the Lab call if you haven't done your homework. I guess what I'd ideally like is that you've at least watched the video, which again, if you get home and it's, you know, quarter to the hour that we're about to start, just watch it. It's 6 to 10 minutes and you'll be ready. You'll be prepped for the Live in the Lab. But I am going to encourage you to bring some questions if you can to the Live in the Lab, and I'll talk about that in a moment too. We also have a private Facebook group, and that's also open to previous cohorts. So I'm hoping that some of the previous cohorts will actually join the Live in the Lab, and I believe that they have already signed up. So you'll also benefit from some of the previous participants in their learnings, and I'm hoping they might share with us some of their applications and how they've been using it over the last year or two as well. Okay, so the module opens every morning. So you'll receive a notification saying that the first module or the introductory module is ready to watch. And so we've got the dates there for you of the weeks that the modules are dropping, and concluding on Monday, the 27th of April. So I'm going to move into the 6M model. Amazingly, they all start with M, which you know, I did used a little bit of one of my top strengths of creativity, particularly when it came to might. So might really stands for strengths, and we're going to be focusing specifically on character strengths. But the others are what I refer to as the 6 core psychological capabilities for life. And they really emerged when I was asked a question by a school principal a number of years ago, and she said, Suzy, if you had a wish or a dream for a senior high school student walking out our gates for the very last day, in terms of the key psychological skills you wish they had going out into the world, what would they be? And I thought, wow, that's an amazing question. No one's ever asked me that. So I went away and I really reflected. I thought about what I knew from the science, but I mainly reflected on what I had used with clients over the 15, 20 years that I'd been working as a practitioner. And so concepts like mindset, which has been the bread and butter of psychologists for decades, obviously is a key component. Meaning, increasing focus on meaning, both in a scientific, a research-based, I guess, approach, but more and more, particularly with our younger generations, they don't just want jobs, they want meaningful and purposeful work. So that's a really important component. Mood, so we'll be looking absolutely at the positive emotions, which I mentioned before, but we'll be talking about the full range of human emotions, because I guess as a clin psych, I know very well that emotions like fear and anger and sadness are really important, normal human emotions. So we need to talk about, again, the full range of emotions. Might, I mentioned, is strengths. Mindfulness, it's being increasingly referred to as the foundation of flourishing. And in many ways, if you haven't got a level of mindfulness, it's going to be very difficult to apply all the other psychological skills. So we'll spend quite a bit of time talking about that, and it'll possibly emerge in every other module because it's so relevant. And then motivation. There's about 40 years of research in psychology on motivation, the impact of our goals on our well-being. So it's going to be really exciting to introduce you to some of that research and firstly apply it to yourself, but then think about how it might play out for your clients or students, for example. So I've given a brief explanation, so I'm just going to briefly just go over these again. In the modules, in the module on mood, we'll also be looking at some mood boosting strategies. So we are at a point where we can prescribe, if you like, these mood boosting activities that have been scientifically shown to improve well-being, in some cases in less than a month. So again, this is going to be a really practical module, and with some great suggestions on what you can do to enhance your positive emotional state and your overall mood state. We'll be talking about gratitude in particular as one of the most powerful ways to do that, but we'll also be looking at concepts like kindness, compassion, and forgiveness also. Motivation, I mentioned before. We're going to be introducing some theories, some psychological theories, and I have to say they're very user-friendly theories. So there'll be theories that you'll be able to reflect on when it comes to your own goals, to look at whether you are truly intrinsically motivated, which is what we're aiming for, and what tells us is highly correlated with us achieving our goals and also feeling well about achieving our goals. We'll also be focusing in on values as a really important aspect of authentic goal setting, if you like. Might, as I said, we'll be looking at the character strengths. I'm wondering, you might want to put in the chat box now if you'd like, if anyone's already done the VIA character strengths assessment. And even if you don't end up joining us this year in 2020 and you're just here to learn a little bit, but you feel like you're not quite ready for it, or for some reason you won't be able to do it, one of the things you could do immediately would be to go away and do the free VIA character strengths survey. If you just Google the VIA character strength survey, you can undertake a free survey, and it will list and rank order your 24 strengths. And it's a great place to start to increase your levels of awareness, self-awareness. Particularly here in Australia, I know we have some international guests on the call tonight, but particularly here in Australia, we haven't really talked much about our strengths. I know that's changing with our younger generation, but the character strengths inventory and assessment is a really nice introduction, provides a language, a literacy, if you like, so we can start looking at the things that we do well and that we value in ourselves in terms of being good human beings, if you like, as well. Okay, meaning. So I mentioned that before. We're going to be looking at the research on the impact of meaning in our lives, but we're also going to be focusing in on meaning at work. Been some fantastic research that's been done to show that those that have meaning in their work do report greater levels of work and overall life satisfaction. But don't worry if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to find meaning. I've just got a job right now. It pays the bills. Don't worry, because the most important thing is that you have meaning in some aspect in your life. And again, there'll be lots of rich information in that module for you to apply to your life. Mindfulness, as I mentioned, the foundation of flourishing. And you know, there's a lot happening in mindfulness at the moment. In fact, some people are referring to it as the Mac mindfulness movement. Everybody's on the mindfulness bandwagon at the moment. I'll definitely be coming at it from a science-based perspective. There's some really good science to show the impact that it has on our well-being, on our functioning from a behavioural perspective, on our relationships. And of course, there are different ways that we can engage mindfulness. So I'll be introducing some fantastic strategies to introduce even very brief everyday mindfulness activities, as well as encouraging you to adopt a personal practice, much like going to the gym if you're doing strength training as well. So we'll be exploring that. And then mindset. So as I mentioned, if you've suffered with psychological distress in the past, you would have been introduced to an approach referred to as cognitive behavioural therapy, or perhaps a newer approach called ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. We're going to bring some of those techniques that have historically been used therapeutically, if you like, but really bring them to life for you in your everyday life, whether that's work, sports, relationships. And this is a really, really powerful model that, much like mindfulness, will have an impact on all the other modules. Okay, so this is our second and last chance to win a pack of character strengths cards. So first person to put a response into the question, how do you think the program will benefit you, others, and the world? And I think, you know, in the early days of positive psychology, there was much critique about it being very individualistic, very self-serving, if you like. And there's really been a movement towards, I guess, recognition that it's ultimately I haven't got a full glass right now, but if your glass is full, it's really just a tip to help others. It's quite easy. It's not utilizing a lot of your energy. You've got more energy to give. But if you're half full, it can be very destabilizing. So it's not selfish, in fact. It's about filling yourself up. And of course, that's a balance with all your other roles and responsibilities in your life. But the fuller you are, it's going to be much easier to help others around you. So for me, positive psychology is really about helping others and I guess addressing some of the really problematic issues we have in our society and the world right now. So who have we got? Alicia. Did Alicia? Yeah. Alicia, yay! There's a pack of character strengths cards coming your way and Claudia will be in contact tomorrow. That was lucky. Yeah. She was quick. She was on the ball, wasn't she? So, and other people have said creating this ripple effect. And absolutely, that was Carly. I'll be talking quite a bit about this research around the social and emotional contagion theory. Most of us know that we, can catch negative emotions. In the corporate sector, they call them the energy vampires, the people that you come into contact with and you walk away feeling depleted and deflated. We now know that positive energy also has a contagion effect. It's those people that you come into contact with and you actually feel energized by. So we'll be talking quite a lot about that and this concept, I guess, of the social networks that we're in and how we can really create this ripple effect. And some great research on that that we'll talk about. Okay, so the Live in the Labs, all of this information is contained on the Teachable platform. As I said, it's 1 hour a week. The Live in the Labs will be recorded, so you don't necessarily have to be there. We've tried to make the times as globally time-friendly as possible. But New York's a little tricky early in the morning if you're from NYC, but again, they'll be recorded, so there is an option and you can send through questions prior to the webinar and I'll address those questions as well. Okay, so we're also happy to provide a certificate of completion. We do require you to have watched all of the modules, perhaps not have read every scientific paper that we send to you or other additional videos, but we do need you to have attended 6 out of the 8 Live in the Labs to receive the certificate. And we had a number of people, Claudia, I think, that got the certificate in the last 2 years. Also just wanted to flag tonight, if you're a leader or I guess a decision maker in your workplace or school, we would love to see groups do this. It's a fantastic onboarding as far as I'm concerned, particularly if you're a school that's just in the very early stages of positive education or looking at your wellbeing strategy in your school. Similarly in the workplace, if you're keen to explore what the latest science is telling us about wellbeing, I'd love to see an HR team, an L&D team, even a team with a leader that's just got some passion around this to come on. So please contact us if you're interested. Absolutely happy to provide some discounts for those groups. So recommendations, love to see you in the Live in the Lab. As I said, there'll be some past participants who I think you'll really benefit from hearing how they're using the skills as well. Bring some questions or email them through before. Watch at least the video, as I mentioned before, and please engage in the Facebook group. I'll be posting additional, I guess, information. There's always something happening in the world of positive psychology. I'm hoping to attend the European Positive Psychology Conference in Iceland in June. And we do keep the Facebook group open so we can continue to connect. And I would love to perhaps do a mini session when I come back from Iceland to tell you what the latest is later in the year. So now we've got time for questions. So if you'd like to, again, put any questions that I haven't answered right now in the chat box, that'd be fantastic. While I'm waiting for you to do that, I can tell you what some of the previous questions and concerns have been. I know myself, I've got about 4 digital courses that I'm working through right now. So I know that often we sign up for these courses and then we don't get around to doing them. So I guess one of the queries is, will I actually do it? I think, as I said before, what I have done is to make it as fairly user-friendly as possible. So with very brief videos, You'll have lifetime access to the program. You can download the resources. So again, you can do the additional readings at your own pace. You can join class of 2021 next year if you want to come back for the live in the labs. And also, we're very happy for you to reach out individually with specific questions around topics that perhaps I haven't covered in detail, or you think some additional readings or resources that might be helpful in your work or your role. So my aim is to help you as much as I possibly can. So even, as I said, even if you feel like you're not going to be able to do everything, I think you should be able to get through the videos at the very least and have access to us through the program. Will it be too scientific? So again, I know I've had a lot of people that have gone, oh, I don't really know much about this at all. Is it too, too beyond me? I don't think, I hope it's not, but I would love you to ask me to explain that a little bit, more in depth, or another way to look at what you're talking about. So I'm very open to feedback. But I know from previous years, we've had some great feedback and testimonials. People have found it accessible and relevant to their everyday lives, and not too scientific, if you like. What else have we got? Yes, if you have additional questions, you can, as I said before, can contact us. We're always open for emails and contact. So it doesn't look like there's any further questions, Claudia. But even after tonight, and for those that are listening to the recording, don't hesitate to contact us. I think we've only got this week to go. I think I'm up to that now, aren't I? So we close Sunday. We're closing the cart Sunday, if you like. So you've got the rest of this week. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you do sign up, hopefully you will get an email, and you'll get a resource list just to get you started, which will be great. And we'd also like to offer the first 25 to register and pay up front by this Sunday midnight. We've got till midnight. We'll receive a 10% discount, and all you have to do is enter the details at checkout. And the first 10 to register by Sunday will also receive an advance copy. So I'm not actually launching it till March the 12th. But again, those that sign up, happy to send out, first 10, happy to send out a copy of the book, which I think is going to be a fantastic accompaniment to the course as well. So I hope you do. I hope you do. And that brings me to the end. Can't see any final questions. I hope that's been educational, inspirational. All I can say is this learning about positive psychology has been one of the best things that's happened to me in my life personally, in my career. I've spoken to many other people that have said it's changed their life. There's something special about it. You can't not be affected, I guess, by the learning, and then obviously the living of it. So I do hope you join us, and look forward to seeing you in the live in the labs very soon. Thanks for your time and attention this evening. Bye.